Morning Power Call. It's good to have you guys here together. I almost didn't want to start. The conversation happening inside of the chat right now is pretty valuable, and it's actually pretty adjacent to what I'm going to talk about. So I kind of almost didn't want to start because the conversation has been so good. But let's dive in. I'm going to go ahead and give you this scenario. I'm going to give you this idea because I think it's going to massively help you guys not only get your open rates up, but get your response rates way up. I gave you a scenario in the past. I like to do this. I like to give you guys scenarios. I give you guys ideas or situations you can put yourself in to help open up new perspectives, new ideas, and help you see things in a clearer way. Maybe perhaps identify things that you couldn't quite see before. These hypothetical scenarios that they give you will give you that ability to see them, right? And one of the scenarios I gave you a while back, I've given you ones about bears. I've given you ones about like gun to the head scenarios. This is like gun to the head scenario, but level 2, right? This is like the next level you can take here. So a lot of you guys, right? You're sitting there, you're working on outreach, you're thinking about ways you can do your cold email. And I'm gonna give you a new perspective on this. And it's inspired by one of the greats, one of the OGs of copywriting. My personal favorite of all the OG copywriters, my favorite hands down, because he actually lived a pretty interesting life and was a cool dude, was Gary Halbert. That dude was a stud. Interesting guy. Lived a super interesting life. Made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, went to jail, came out of jail, made more money in jail. Just a cool dude, right? Lived a super awesome life. Really, really skilled at what he did. And his writing just had that same kind of feeling that I like. And I like to think that I have in my writing as well. But he had there was a story, a part of his life, right, where he made his first big breakthrough in the direct response world. And this was back in like mail order stuff, right? Where he had to like put letters in envelopes and send them to prospects or like people who would like potentially buy your product. You had to build a product. You send these actual mailings out. Like you go to the post office with a giant cart of letters and send them out to people, and people would open them or not and buy. It was just a completely different world. And he was a young guy. I think he had 5 kids by the time he was 30. So he had to be beat. I only got 2. But he was trying to make money. He's trying to make money in the direct response world. He read all the cool books. He'd done all the cool things, and he kept failing, right? Like he'd save up some money, and then he'd use that for a test. Like he'd send out 1,000 letters, and nothing would come back. Or like 1 or 2 orders would come back. Like basically, he kept failing every single time. But he was so committed to learning this stuff, so committed to becoming one of the greats that he would try anyways, and he'd try anyways. And there were times he would talk about where he would use his utility money, like the money for like his like the water or the electricity at his home. I don't recommend you do the strategy, but he would use that money to send out a test campaign, and it wouldn't work. And then he'd have to deal with no water with his wife and 4 or 5 kids or however many kids he had at the time. And obviously his family wasn't a big fan of it. He ended up divorcing that particular wife for other reasons. But at one point, like he went down into his basement, cold, dark basement. After having this failed campaign that hadn't worked, he's like a year or 2 into the game. He's trying to figure out why it's not working, what he needs to do. And he came up with a scenario that I have personally used quite a bit. And I think this scenario is going to be very helpful for you guys, not only in like the normal copywriting you do, but especially in the outreach messages that you guys do. And he had this idea. He's like, if I had to, this scenario, and I like to say it's the level 2 of gun to the head, because it raises the stakes a little bit. He said, if I could only send out one letter, like one physical letter, one envelope, one letter on my next campaign, how would I guarantee that it worked? And like in the scenario, he's like, okay, I can only send out one of these. And if I don't get a response, I'm going to be beheaded. Like I will be beheaded if I do not get a response from this one single email that I send out. Now that's an awesome question, right? Because a lot of times when you're doing outreach, when you're doing marketing, you kind of rely on the scale of it all. You're like, I want to send it out to a whole bunch of people, and like some of them are definitely going to want to buy, right? And he kind of turned that on his head and inverted it. He's like, if I only get to send out one piece of mail, how do I guarantee that it gets a response, or else I'll be beheaded? So he thought of a whole bunch of things. This is where he came up with his A pile, B pile concept. And he was famous for saying that like Americans open their mail over the trash can, and they would throw away the ones that looked like they were obviously low value and obviously were not personalized or were just like, obviously a mass mailing. They would just throw those away, and they would open up the ones that look personal and look like an actual personal letter from their friends or contacts or important things like that, right? Which is kind of a cool concept. Maybe we could talk about that in related as it relates to email marketing. It's not obviously the same. People don't check their email for communication from their friends. They check it for important communications from customers and clients and partners and things like that. But that's neither here nor there. But the real cool question is, let's imagine you could only send out one outreach email in your entire life as a copywriter. Like you could only send one. Okay. And you had to get a response from that or you would be beheaded. You could only send out one. Some of you have sent out hundreds. Let's imagine you like today, from now on, you could only send out one for the rest of your life as a copywriter, one email, and it had to get a positive response. How would you approach the situation? What would you change? What would you do to make sure that it gets opened in the first place and delivered in the first place? How would you make sure that it ends up in their A pile, right, of their email, as like the whole Gary Halpert framework? How would you do that? What would you change about your subject line? What would you change about your email address, your profile picture? What would you change to get it open? What would you change about the time that you deliver that email? What would you do to make sure that email had the highest chance of being opened and received positively, number one? Now, number two, what would you put inside of that email? What would you put inside of that outreach to maximize the opportunity for them replying and saying yes and being interested in continuing the conversation with you? What would it have to look like? What reason would you have to give them? Why would you pick that company over another company? What company would you pick in the first place to send this to? Start thinking about this. Start thinking about what you would do if you literally could only send one email out, or else you would get beheaded. Because it's going to illustrate some key places where you can add and drive a lot more value in your email. And I'm a big fan of this, right? I believe people don't open email, they don't respond to email because what they find inside doesn't feel valuable, doesn't feel personal. All of my greatest successes with email outreach have been when I created very personalized, very valuable, and very interesting outreaches that provided a lot of value and were very relevant to the individual people that I was emailing. And I realized this, I was thinking about this as I was going through and re-updating the bootcamp and creating new content for you guys. I think perhaps for some of you, the term cold outreach or prospecting is a bad term and it puts you in a bad frame of mind. And maybe I'll do another power-up call expanding on this. But you really aren't looking for clients when you do your cold email. And you really aren't cold emailing people, right? You're looking for businesses to potentially partner with, right? You're not looking for a client to make a quick $100 from. You're looking for businesses that you are going to partner with. You are going to work together for the next year or two to triple their sales or 10x their sales, take them from 6 figures to 7 figures, 7 figures to 10 figures. You're there to improve their business by an order of an order of magnitude. And you're going to earn a lot of money as a result. That's what you're looking for, right? Now, obviously, you need to work your way with a discovery project. There's ways to get in there, but that is ultimately what you're doing with your prospecting time. If you think about a cold email, you think about with templates and blasting out this and optimizing subject lines, a lot of you guys lose focus on what's actually occurring there, what you're actually currently doing. So this question is going to help you with that. If you could only send out one cold email for your entire prospecting life as a copywriter, what would you do to get that response? Again, imagine the scenario. If you didn't get that one response from that one email you sent out, you'd be beheaded. Imagine that. What would change? What would be different? It is. Someone said, hey, this reminds me of the gun to the head scenario. Yes, this is, as I said before earlier, this is level 2, right? Gun to the head scenario is just kind of a general one you can apply to everything. We're stacking on top of it with that level of like desperation and that level of necessity, not necessarily desperation, that level of life or death importance. We're stacking that on top of an additional limitation of only being able to send out one. Alex Hormozi talks about this. It's like if you could only have one new customer, right? You can only land one customer through marketing. What kind of service would you have to give that one customer so that they would refer you and give you endless business in the future? Like that's the same type of question here. But specifically where you guys are at right now, this idea of you could only send out one email or one DM or one whatever, or one little series of outreach stuff to find a business to partner with, and you had to get one, and if you didn't, you'd be beheaded. Like think of the things you would change and then just do that for the rest of your stuff, right? Some of you guys are only doing one a day, so it's pretty easy to live this scenario out, right? But if I want you guys to start thinking about this. Even if you're sending out 10 a day, you want to look at these levels, like a lot of the things that you would change in this one email that your life or death depends upon. You can change that in the emails you're sending out 5 or 6 or 7 of them on, right? Like that's something you can do. Like you can still do the same thing for 5 or 6. It's not like you have to only do it for one. Use the scenario. Think about ways. I saw some of you guys talking about, oh, I'm not going to send free value, or I'm not getting my open rate, so I'm going to do this other thing. Like this is going to help you solve that problem. Ask yourself, if I could only send this one email to get it open, what would it have to change? What would the subject line have to look like? What would the first line have to look like? What would my name and everything, what would that all have to look like to get an open guaranteed the first time? This is going to help you with that, right? If you're trying to get open rates, you're sending free value and people aren't responding, something has to change. What would have to change with what you're currently doing so they would have to respond? Who would you pick to email? What would you email them about? What would you give them? How would you do your research to find out what they particularly need? What industry language would you use? What wouldn't you use? You need to ask yourself all of those questions tied into this objective of, if I could only send one and I had to get a response or I would be beheaded, what would I do? Because Gary Halper went on, he took this idea and he did a killer outreach. He created an entire business as a result of this next one. He had an idea. He read something about some old lady that was supplementing your Social Security income by like selling family crests. He took it to the next level. And you guys can look it up. It's like the Family Crest or the Family Crest sales letter. It was a really, really short letter written from, maybe I'll drop a link inside of the campus. But he wrote a really short, personalized letter that was based off of a few key important things, and he crushed. He made millions and millions. He made like $7 million from his first run of it. And then he made $40 million on the second updated version of like other things he would, like the upsell he gave on the back end. And he sold the company for millions and millions of dollars. And then that was like that particular letter went out millions and millions of times. Like it was an insanely successful thing because of how he reduced it down to the scenario. And he never had to worry about paying his utilities. Again, he obviously became pretty wealthy and stuff and left that one lady and like divorced her because of other problems and married other women. Like he had a cool life. Gary Halper was a cool dude, but a lot of his success came because of the breakthroughs he had after that question. Now, that's a powerful question, and I want you guys to use it yourself. You're going to discover things as you ask this question to yourself that are going to provide you with a similar level of breakthrough if you hold yourself to the task, if you hold yourself to the standard. Because you might try it for 5 minutes and then get distracted and forget. I want you guys to devote serious time to asking yourself this question. Ask yourself seriously, like block out some time on your calendar today or tomorrow to sit down and thoroughly consider this question. Actively consider it and then apply what you learn. Apply the changes because this is going to teach you. It's going to force you to look at what you're currently doing with a very, very harsh filter that's going to teach you a myriad of lessons that are going to help you be more successful in your outreach game and help you find businesses to partner with. My friends, this has been a cool one. This has been a cool email. I'm excited to hear what you guys say. As you go through this and you do this exercise and you have new insights, tag me. I think probably the Outreach Lab chat is probably where this conversation is going to happen. I'm going to go over there and post something in there right now actually about this, but this is where I want to have you guys the conversation. I want to continue to hear about how you guys are implementing this because this is a question that is going to massively change your guys' perspective and help you guys get a lot better responses. So guys, it's been good. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. We'll do this again tomorrow. We have our copy review call tomorrow. I'm going to put the link for submitting your copy inside of the announcements channel right after this call. It's been a great one, guys. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Take care. Let's go out and get it.